complaints of local constituents over bus services in their area, horror stories about the failure, in particular, of go-ahead buses to turn up at all, to turn up on time, and so on. We had similar complaints at the Transport Committee where Go-Ahead and Dublin Bus were in today. Now, I want to put it to you very simply that the reason this is happening is because the inability of bus companies to recruit and retain bus workers, and that is because of the pay and conditions being so poor for bus workers, and because of the pressure of competitive tendering imposed by the NTA and by you, Minister, and successive transport ministers.
Aware of the service issues concerned being experienced across the public transport in Dublin and the negative impact it's having on the travelling public. I want to assure the House that both I and my officials who have met with senior management from the National Transport Authority in relation to these service issues, and we're keeping the situation under close review. Unfortunately, many operators are experiencing staffing difficulties at present, both as a result of COVID-19 related absences and also in relation to recruiting new drivers. The NTA is working closely with operators to try and mitigate the impacts of these staff shortages through recent recruitment campaigns, through engagement with the Road Safety Authority to expedite the testing and licensing process, and working with operators to minimise service cancellations. Further, in instances where operators have failed to meet the performance standards agreed in the PSO contracts, the NTA has applied significant financial penalties to those operators. The steps being taken by the NTA and operators are positive ones. However, it is the case that different sectors of the labour market are experiencing recruitment difficulties post-COVID-19 for a whole variety of different reasons. My department has been also engaging with the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment with regard to potential inclusion of bus drivers on the critical skills and ineligible occupations lists, which determine roles that are either in critical short supply or ineligible for employment permits. I firmly believe that we need to expand our public transport offering both in Dublin and across the country, and we are committed to funding further expansion of public transport services next year, and the details of phasing of that expansion is currently being considered. Vital within that the right pay and conditions for workers, so that for them the system works just as the way then it will work for passengers, and we're committed to that as part of the overall solution to make this switch in the transport system we need to make.
Minister, even the WHO have said that being a bus driver is one of the most stressful jobs. I think it's the third most stressful job you can possibly have. With traffic congestion in Dublin and so on, that's made even worse. But competitive tendering is creating a race to the bottom, of which Go-Ahead is, if you like, the worst offender. They were hemorrhaging bus drivers over the last year because the conditions and pay, particularly the conditions, the lack of work-life balance, the long shifts, were so bad they were hemorrhaging. And that is also causing problems for Dublin Bus, right? And when Dublin Bus workers, by 85%, rejected an attempt to further deteriorate their conditions, their work-life balance, their shifts, what was the main selling point of the company in trying to ram that deal down their throat? We have to compete with Go-Ahead. That's what I said, right? Go-Ahead, who are leading the race to the bottom. So competitive tendering, privatisation, is actually creating the conditions where bus drivers do not want to join these companies. People don't want to be bus drivers because the pay, the conditions, the work-life balance, the shifts and so on are so flippin' awful. Right? That's what has to be addressed, and privatisation is a problem, an obstacle to that. Go-Ahead are exacerbating it, and then the ordinary passenger or user of bus services faces the horror stories that I have in front of me. The 175, the 17, the 75, the 114, not turning up hours late, and so on.
Now we're going to have to move on to the next slot. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So